But our lead story, I want to get into something we mentioned in a previous episode that continues to percolate in the sporting world. It comes from Pro Bouncy Ball and Steph Curry's magic carpet ride through the NBA in the month of April. He has been splashing nets across the association for several weeks now. The other night, we discussed Curry's performance in Philly. He had 49 points, 10 three balls in a win, an upset win against the Sixers. Now, we discussed the fact that Ben Simmons missed that game. Some believe he had the Steph Curry flu. That was the reason, but Curry getting accolades all over the place. Why not? He continues to play breathtaking basketball. And was it 11 straight games I read with 30-plus points that broke Kobe Bryant's record for a player 33 years or older. I love how it's 33 years or older because you got to have a record-breaking stat for everything. So if you don't have a record-breaking stat, you just throw in a bunch of variables until you get the record-breaking stat. Makes sense if you work in that business. Now, he also broke Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan's record for the most 40-point games in a calendar month. The month of April has been very kind. Five. And Curry is averaging a very gaudy 40.7 points per game. He's shooting 55% from the floor. But the amazing statistic, on the money ball, Curry is shooting 50%. 1 out of every 2 he makes from three-point range, 91% from the charity stripe. Those are all wonderful statistics. You're never supposed to give too many of those out on the radio because you're doing other stuff. You're not paying attention to everything I'm saying. But you were likely aware of a lot of that, maybe not all of it. But do you know, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story? Well, there is a growing drumbeat to hand Steph Curry the MVP. Now, we dismissed this out of hand after the game against the Sixers, but I want to circle back to this now and discuss the question, what are the odds that Steph Curry is getting a lot of support from the media, climbs the mountain to take NBA MVP honors here in 2021? Now, I'm going to set the line on this at plus 750. Now, plus 750 is not zero. If you're not a gambler or you're bad at math, that implies around a 12% chance that Curry will win the award. I think I'm going high on that. My thoughts on this: you've got grassroots, marathon, and Mythbusters. And we will tie all of these things together, and we'll put them into a pot, and we'll cook them for about 10 minutes and see what we've got. Now, Steph Curry, who has been a powerhouse for Golden State, as we have laid out, we don't need to lick the toes anymore, but night after night, he has been superhuman. And he reminds me, people are saying, well, who does he remind you of? Curry reminds me of me playing pickup basketball back in the day. They called me Moneyball MALLER, and Steph Curry, the master of the money ball. But I growing up on the hardscrabble streets of Orange County, my name is in the Ring of Honor at Orchard Park because of the money ball. But I digress. All of this has led to a grassroots movement. And that's what this really is, because the MVP race has all but been decided, but there's a grassroots movement to say, hey, wait a minute, time out on the court. Let's give the MVP to Steph Curry. Even though Curry has been out of this world, it's not going to end up in an MVP. Campaigning aside, the Warriors simply aren't good enough. We're talking about a pedestrian basketball team. They're treading water in the kiddie pool of the NBA. And if you look at the criteria, and that's important when you're deciding an MVP, or as I vote, the most prestigious award in sports, I vote for the John R. Wooden Award. But you look at the criteria of what goes into winning an award like that, the criteria for the MVP, it's different. Generally speaking, though, team success plays a big part in this. And Golden State, at the time we are having this conversation, I am talking to you, and you might be talking back, but I can't hear you. At the time we were having this conversation, the Warriors are not even a playoff team, not a legitimate playoff team. They have illegitimate and legitimate playoff teams. The Warriors are an illegitimate playoff team. They would have to earn their way into this Fugazi play-in tournament. that the NBA added for increased revenue. Now, part B of this, considering the fact that I keep getting sent stories, propaganda from our listeners in the Bay Area about Steph Curry, this, that, and the other thing, I'm going to put my foot down. I will be the grown-up. I'll be the adult and just say it. Steph Curry, again, not winning the MVP. I don't care how many positive Steph Curry videos you send me or stories that were penned by bleeding heart bloggers of basketball. He's not winning the MVP award in 2021. Sorry, not sorry, right? As a rule of thumb, we mentioned the criteria. The team success is part of it, but the MVP goes to the player who has almost everything leaning their direction, right? All the planets align, as our friend Andrea would point out, the sports sorcerers, in terms of health, team quality, which is wins and losses, and individual performance. And the player that has stood out, that is clearly the MVP, is Nikola Jokić. It's his to lose, and there is a massive gap. He could lay down and take a nap for about an hour during the season, and it wouldn't matter, right? That's how big. Imagine, if you will, a world where it's the Battle of Marathon, which led us to what is now known as the marathon. If only the Battle of Marathon had been, 4 miles, but it was 26.1 miles. Everyone knows that story. But the old-fashioned road race, 26.1 miles. Imagine, if you will, Jokić is at the 25-mile marker. He's getting one of those little paper cups with water at the 25-mile marker. Now, Curry, he's in the marathon, but he's back at the 5-mile marker. He's at that checkpoint. And without the fanfare, the Joker has been putting up his own historic numbers. He's been doing it all season. Jokić, if you look at his plus-minus, which is a stat that I actually bring up a lot, I think it's important. It's a newer stat, relatively new in the NBA. But plus-minus, Jokić is having the 6th best season in NBA history. All time. All the greats. And Jokić is 6th in plus-minus. He's one of 7 players in the professional history of basketball who has averaged 20 points per game, 10 rebounds, and shot 40% or better from three-point range. He's doing all of that this season. And so that resume is a landslide victory for Jokić. And it is going to infuriate the NBA media cartel. I'm telling you right now, as a distant relative of Nostradamus and occasional friend of Nostradamus, he lives in Seattle, be prepared for the backlash. Be prepared for the blowback, because the Curry fans are not going to handle this. Jokić is sequestered. He's off the grid in Colorado. The Nuggets don't have the sex appeal. And Curry is worshipped, right, on a higher profile team in a big market. And they've still got that aura. Granted, it's been several years since they were great, but the aura of what they used to be, the Golden State Warriors. All right, last word here. So now Steph Curry's not winning the MVP, but he's going to accomplish something that is actually more important in his career than the MVP, right? This is a reboot. It's a reboot of Mythbusters, the show on Discovery, Mythbusters. What is the myth-busting process here for Steph Curry? He is proving once and for all that he is not a system player, right? That had been one of the knocks on Curry, that he had been an imposter, that Curry was a phony, he was a fraud, that the success he had, he was surrounded by great players, and so his weaknesses were masked. And if you're a good shooter, you can knock down wide open shots. And, well, Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are not walking through that door. Durant's never walking through that door again unless it's out of the visiting locker room, and Klay Thompson's been fragile and broken for 2 years in a row. So Curry is surrounded by what? If you look at the Warriors, saw him play the other night in Philly, they won that game, but Curry is surrounded by a bunch of ham and eggers on the Golden State roster. He is a saint among thieves because many of those players are stealing money with the Warriors because they're not earning it, and there's nowhere to hide is what I'm trying to say. And Steph Curry is the central focus. If you prepare at all as an NBA player, and there's debate whether that actually happens during the regular season, it's only in the playoffs where they actually prepare for the opposition. But assuming you believe that they do, the myth that there is preparation for the opponent, the central focus is going to beat Curry if you're the opposing team, and he's getting double teamed all the time. He's validation for his status that he's not just a spot up 3-point shooter that, when everyone around him is great, he's great. And so what's the end game? Now, he breaks the myth. MVP, no. He could finish third. At most, if he continues this the rest of the season, second in the MVP race. But Jokic, and that's assuming Jokic doesn't get hurt or Jokic, the Joker falls apart. But Curry's certainly, he's already ahead of LeBron because LeBron's gone. See you later. He's out. Harden's hurt now. He's out. And even Joel Embiid, who's had a good year and a very good year statistically for the Sixers, I could see Curry passing him by, but not Jokic. Sorry.